Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to rank the 3-game CSGO main site on Saturday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, and esports daily fantasy sports slates, esports including Call of Duty, League of Legends, and this one, Counter-Strike CSGO. With that out of the way, let's jump in the video. First, let's look back. Before we get into players and the prices for this one, first let's look back at my lineup here from Friday. And I actually took down a GPP on Friday. Now, this is in the showdown slate, so we'll just go over this real quick. Had fallen in the captain with Fur, paired with TRK as value, then Zeppa as my one-off because he had to play someone on the other team. And it was a very, very popular lineup, right? This was the big tournament. I tied with, I believe, 137 other people. But still, $10 into 115, can't complain. Took down a GPP. So, that kind of salvaged my day. That made me profit because my main site lineup, not so good. So this is my final lineup here. Fallen, TRK, Bubchki, Akor, Rops, and Frozen. The Mad Lions guys they really didn't look good. We'll go over those stats in a bit. The Mouse Esports guys continue to struggle. They got 2-0'd as well against Complexity. I was, going back and forth in that one, but I ended up siding with, the Mouse Esports guys. And then the MIBR guys, again, they were pretty big favorites. I mentioned them, getting a 2 or 3 man stack for cash games there for safety. Fallen was really good. TRK was solid for value, right? You're kind of hoping for that 2-0. You got the 2-0. So that basically wraps it up. Again, the main slate was disappointing for me, but won it back and more on the showdown slate, took down a GPP. So really can't complain. All right, let's review some of the stats here. I have these stats up from the games today. So on the Mouse Esports side, and everyone kind of struggled. They got 2-0'd. Rops was even. Frozen -4, Woxic -2. Kerrigan and Chris J really struggled, but you kind of expect that from this team, right? It's a top-heavy team. The top 2 guys with Woxic as well kind of do carry that roster. On the Complexity side, was Config had the best day there at +14. Blame F was pretty solid, and Obo is continuing to play really solid as well. Poison was decent as well, but I don't know if I'm going to consider him much on this slate. And then we had Mad Lions versus Big. This one went to 3 maps, but the Mad Lions guys it was a little bit disappointing. You had Roge and Asilian, 2 guys that normally don't do a whole lot as far as fantasy scoring. They had the best days in their team, whereas guys like Shajush, Bubchki, Akor, just off days. Big looked like the better team. That was my first time watching them. Cyrusson had a really, really good day. They're +25, Tabson as well as +15. Those 2 guys their price tags look pretty appealing, especially Tabson this slate, going up against a team that is struggling in Mouse Esports. So we'll get to that here in a sec. Xantrez was a guy that was kind of popular. He was somewhat of a letdown, so I'm interested to see. I think his ownership will be very, very small in this slate tomorrow, just because, again, recency bias. We see it. I talk about that a lot. Guys after big games, they're just going to be a lot higher owned. So I always kind of like getting a guy that had an off game the day before because their ownership's going to drop. And then MIBR versus Chaos. Yeah, I was pretty confident MIBR could take this one. They did. They won 2-0. Fur, Fallen, K, and GV all had really, really big days. I mean, you kind of expected those 3 guys do have a lot of upside going up against a not as good team there in Chaos. TRK and Taco, again, you don't expect a whole lot from those guys. On the Chaos side, it was Zippa that was positive. That's about it. So let's now look at some Vegas odds here for the slate for tomorrow. So we have Mouse Esports versus Big. Mouse Esports are -190 favorites. I really think this could go either way. Mouse Esports has really, really been struggling. Big had a nice win there against Mad Lions. So, yeah, I think that one's basically a toss-up. Mad Lions versus Complexity. The Vegas line says it's going to be a toss-up. Complexity slight favorites there at -135. And then we have Team Lookwood versus MIBR. Team Lookwood are -345 favorites. I don't think I agree with that line. I think this one should be close, or MIBR can even win this one. So that Vegas line I don't agree with at all. But we'll get to that more in a bit. Let's get into players and their prices. So first we have the big side. Again, we have Searson's price actually dropped. He was, I believe, in the 9K range. He had 9.4K. He had a really big day. 69.44. He looked really good. So you can't deny that. His price dropped, and after a big day, I think his ownership is he's going to be pretty high for this one. Now, I don't know. Are people just going to continue to look at odds and keep going with the favorites and kind of ignore the underdogs? So I guess there's a chance he might not be as high owned, but with the price tag dropping after a big game, I think his ownership will be up there. But yeah, again, if you want to go this route, which I think this game could go either direction, my first play would probably be Tabson. 6K is just way, way too cheap. It is overall numbers. I mean, I can bring it up here. Here, let me go to matches. Let me go to this game for tomorrow. I mean, he's up there with some of the best stats in his team. He's got a .74 kills per round, .64 deaths per round, a 1.17 rating 2.0. He's 6K. I think he would be my first person in my lineup if I was going to go this big direction. Probably would pair him with either Searson or Xantares. That's probably the direction I would go. I think those are the only three I would consider on this side. But yeah, Tabson, I think, is going to be really popular, but for good reason. 6K, that's too cheap. I think the only way he doesn't really get you there is if Mouse Esports wins convincingly in 2-0 fashion. So yeah, again, I really do like Tabson. I think he's one of the better value plays of the day. Searson, Xantares. I think Searson will be pretty popular as well for that big day. Xantares, I think he will be low owned after having a disappointing day. So if you want to get, if you want to kind of differentiate yourself with, and you want to go the big route, right? Maybe you play Xantares and pair him with either Searson or Tabson. So that kind of does it for the big side. Let's talk about the Mouse Esports side. And Chris J and Kerrigan are not really guys I consider. Their price tags are just too high anyway. They really don't do a whole lot in the killing department. So those are two guys you can kind of cross off, in my opinion. And then we have Rops, Frozen, and Woxic. So now Rops is, almost $1,000 more than Frozen. So I'm going to prefer Frozen to Rops. I know Rops had a better day today. I'm going to prefer Frozen. I like the salary a little bit better. With him and Woxic, I still think I give slightly the edge to Frozen over Woxic, but Woxic at a 7.4K price tag is very, very solid. It's just, which route you want to go in this game. I really do think it could go either way. I'm still probably a little bit undecided on what I want to do. It might be a last-minute decision for me. I think my favorite play for his price will be Frozen. And then, Rops and Woxic are probably tied for me. I do like both those guys a decent amount if you want to go this route. Just because, again, those top 2-3 guys really do carry this roster. They're going to do a lot of the killing. So this is the game that is, again, I think it could go really either way. But there are some very good plays on both sides, in my opinion. So let's move on to Complexity versus Mad. This one is almost a pick'em. Complexity slight favorites at -135. Complexity looked really good today. They and their price tags are also very appealing. Blame F, Config, even Obo, I think is now in play. He's had 3 consistent outings in a row. The game against Fnatic, Dignitas, then Mouse Esports. He's looked really solid. So I know he wasn't really great before that, but he's had 3 straight games where he's been pretty decent. So I think he is someone you can consider. Now I still prefer Config and Blame F at a similar price points. Config would probably be my preferred play. He's just the guy that has the best numbers statistically overall, and he's a very aggressive player, which I do like. Blame F at 7.8K I think is very viable as well. Both guys have had big games in back-to-back games. So these are 2 guys that I do like a good amount. Complexity looked really good. I think this Complexity side is going to be more chalky. They're going to be higher owned than the Mad Lion side, just because, again, Complexity won 2-0, Mad Lions lost. People are going to have recency bias. Complexity are just going to be the higher owned team. That's just the way it goes in CSGO. People just chase that last game. Now, this is another game. I really do think it could go either way as well. So the 2 plays that really stand out, again, Config, probably my favorite, then Blame F. Obo, though, has looked good in 3 straight games. I think he is someone you can consider. Poison and Rush on this slate, I don't think we have to do it. I think there's better value, in my opinion. Now let's talk about the Mad Lions heads. This was a little bit disappointing. They disappointed me today. Bubchi, Shajush, Akor were all letdowns. No one really had good games. But we had, Asilian and Roge looked better than they normally do. So let's go to that game really quick. So yeah, if we're just looking at their overall numbers, right? It's Bubsky and Shajush that have the best, KDs, rating 2.0s are both 1.15. Akor is solid. Roge and Asilian are both negative, but they had like the best day. So I don't think that's going to happen again. Those are two guys I don't think I want to really consider in the slate. It would be those three guys with Bubsky, Shajush, and Akor once again for me. Bubsky and Shajush are the most expensive, but 8K and 7.4K are very reasonable. Again, these guys are going to be a lot lower owned than those complexity guys. So if you want to go for guys that are going to be lower owned, these are two guys that have a lot of upside. They're both very similar. Bubsky is a little bit more aggressive, but he also is $600 more. Akor is at a very cheap price tag at 6.4K. Again, he uses the AWP. Rarely are you going to get a guy, your cheapest player in the team, that uses the AWP, a very powerful weapon. So I have some interest in Akor. He's a little bit up and down, but a 6.4K price point I think is certainly viable for a cheaper option. And then lastly, we have MIBR versus Team Liquid. So this is just a Vegas line I don't agree with. We can go to that really quick. Let's go to matches. Let's go to Liquid versus MIBR. See, on here, people are actually 66% of people are picking MIBR. Now that's just a fan vote, but still, we can look at their overall numbers. I mean, Liquid has one more than MIBR, but I don't think they should be that heavily favored. Liquid has just not looked good recently. So yeah, that's just a Vegas line I don't necessarily agree with. So we'll start with the MIBR side. I like the price points better on these guys than the Liquid guys. Not saying the Liquid guys are out of play. It's just the top three guys at MIBR are very cheap. Fallen 8K. He was 10K last slate. Fur, KNGV. Those are two guys that are in the mid 8Ks today. 7K for Fur, 6.4K for KNGV. I think all three of those guys are very viable. I think you can run an MIBR stack. I think this game is all three of these games, there's no real game that I think is going to be a blowout. I think all three of these games could honestly go either way. The Vegas line seems to say that Liquid should win somewhat easily. Again, I don't agree with that. I think this game could be close, or MIBR could even win this one. So I like the price tags more on these MIBR guys. Fallen would be my favorite. He uses the AWP. He's the best player on the team. He clearly is. He has a lot of clutch plays. He would be my favorite play, but Fur and KNGV are also very, very cheap. Again, I think you can run this MIBR stack. TRK and Taco, I don't know if I want to do it on this slate. There's just not a whole lot of really high, expensive guys. So I think more the balanced approach is probably the way I'm going to go in this one. And then the Liquid side. So we have Liege, Naf, Twist at the top. Nitro and Stewie 2K. Again, kind of the same thing. I don't know if I want to consider those guys. Liege is at 8.8K. So he's been back-to-back, or three straight, I believe. Kind of not so good games. I guess I don't have that most recent game up there. But he's just been not really himself. They've been struggling. They lost last two. I think he's fine, but 8.8K, I think I prefer the other side. Naf, 8.2K, again, kind of the same thing. I would prefer just getting to Fallen on the other side. Twist, I still like that price point at 7.2K. I think I prefer the salaries on the opposite side. Now, that's not saying these Liquid guys are out of play. You can definitely go this route. Again, I think it could go either way. You're just going to have to play, maybe one cheaper guy in your lineup, right? Whereas the MIBR side, if you go like a 2 or 3 man stack, you can get basically whoever else you want in your lineup. They're very cheap. 8K for Fallen, 7.4K for 7K for First, 6.4K for KNGV. I like the salaries on those guys. I think you could this slate in general. Again, I think all three of these games could go either way. So you could run two guys from one team and one from the other to get a little bit more contrarian, right? So I think that is viable too. If a game goes 3 maps and stays close in all 3, that is certainly a viable build. Where you don't want that to happen is where if a game goes 2-0 and you have some on the opposite side, rarely are they going to put up a pretty good game. So, we'll let's talk about roster construction again. On these smaller slates, I think, the 2-2-2 is probably the ideal stack. But if we have games that go 3 games and they're all close, you could have, players on the opposite side of the game in your winning lineup, right? So like it'd be like one player from one side, one player from the other. That could happen for sure. Well, let's talk about captains now. So who am I considering for the captain spot, right? So I like the MIBR guys. Again, I know they're probably going to be lower owned because they're the biggest dogs in the slate, but Fallen, Fur, and KNGB, they just seem too cheap for me. So I like that side. Again, it's kind of which route you want to go in each of the games. It's almost a coin flip for me. On the big side, Tabson really stands out at that price. Searson as well. On the Mouse Esports side, Rops, Frozen. Complexity, it's Blame F config. On the Mad Lion side, Bubshisha, Josh, right? It's those top guys, really. On the MIBR side, again, I just like the salaries there. So that's probably the way I'm going to attack it, to be honest. I'll probably go with a 2-man MIBR, 2 or 3-man MIBR stack, and then I'm kind of undecided on those first 2 games which way I want to go. So it kind of will probably be a last-minute decision for me. But those are the guys I'm interested in on each side of these games. So I think that is going to do it for the video, guys. If you have been enjoying the content so far, I really appreciate if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. I will have a Call of Duty video up tomorrow, or tonight, I should say. I got to wait, though, until the game's finished tonight, so that's probably not going to be up for another hour or 2. I guess it really depends on when DraftKings releases the salaries. So be on the lookout for that. I will have it up as soon as they release the salaries. But yeah, thanks again for everyone to come and check the video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one.